I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a notion it's make-believe. I think you're laughing right up your sleeve, fooling with me. Life is worth living while you are giving moments of paradise. You're such a standout, but oh how you hand out that hocus pocus from your eyes. I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a feeling it's all a frame. It's just the well-known old army game, fooling with you.
And we are live. Hi, Tom.
Hello there, Mandy. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you and your cat giving us a little bit of background, which I love. How are you today in Texas?
Oh, just fine. It's beautiful out. It's kind of nippy. It's only 80 degrees. So
okay. Yeah,
we'll do just fine.
Yeah, well, and it'll get you in that kind of mood, I think, for spring aboard the ship. So thank you for joining us to talk all about your expertise as a cruise agent and, of course, a Queen Mary 2. I think you're both a fan as well as a cruise agent.
Actually, I'm a Commodore agent with Cunard, and my agency is a Commodore agency. So, yes, so we do
what does
extra
that
classes
mean exactly?
and studying. We've done extra classes and studying, and we have we're a top account, so we do a lot with Cunard. We being me.
Yeah, of course. So, how long have you been working in this kind of cruise world?
Oh, since 1995. That's when I first trained to be a cruise agent, and then I started Ahoy Cruises in 1999. So on my own for 22 years.
Right.
And I do represent, all cruise lines and all cruise ships, but I focus on several more than others.
Right. And so how did the vintage cruise thing come about?
Well, a few years ago, I heard about Alex Mindham and his orchestra, and I used to do my birthday on the QE2 and in the summer. And it turned out that he had a performance at the Savoy in December, and the Queen Mary left on December 15th. It was a perfect fit. I danced at the Savoy on Saturday and got on the Queen Mary Sunday. And I've been doing that for years. And then he called me up and said, hey, do you think we can do a cruise or something with the orchestra on a ship? And being as if the Queen Mary has the only proper ballroom, that's how it all came together.
That's so terrific. And the fact that we're going to have Alex Mindham, I mean, I know this has been rescheduled for you and for a lot of people now several times. Can you tell me a little bit about what that has been like working with Alex to plan that first cruise?
Oh, it's actually been very easy because we both know what we're doing, which is wonderful. But actually hasn't been that difficult to plan per se. The moving has been challenging from date to date. It has been more than once, unfortunately, but it's COVID. What are you going to do? But Cunard has been absolutely wonderful to work with. They've moved us from time to time and protected the price. So it's been more irritating than challenging.
Right. Now, what about the entertainment that you're planning with Alex? What's that going to look like throughout the week? And first it'll be Alex, and I think a similar schedule for the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Am I right?
It should be about the same. We're going to have 5 afternoon or early evening dances. We have exclusive use of the ballroom, which is the largest ballroom at sea. The dance floor itself is 1,200 square feet. Right. With a room for the full orchestra on the stage. But of course, the ship's orchestra plays every evening from 9 to the wee hours. So we have 6 to 8, which is just pre-dinner. So we have a pre-dinner dance. You have time for a martini, then down to dinner at 8:30. Dine as long as you like, 9:30, 10 o'clock. Then you can go see the ship's entertainments and dance to the ship's orchestra if you like.
Okay,
but
great.
Alex Mindham's going to be, that's the highlight.
Jeff is coming to me with one technical problem. Now, I have 12 people watching for sure, Jeff, but you're not able to see it. We're just having, so maybe, can you just, you think this is only on YouTube that we're seeing and that we failed in the actual Facebook group? Have you tried it on a computer? I just want to make sure. So we are going live in 3 places. I am possibly going to lose you, Tom, for a second if I go and check on that. It should be in the 3. Let me can you go to the Ahoy main page, Jeff? Ahoy Vintage Cruises regular page. I'm going to go there too. Sorry, Tom. I want to make sure that everyone who's wanting to see us can see us, which just want to confirm before we go any further. So something strange here. The tests worked perfectly. And if anybody's looking for us and cannot find us. So, Jeff, do you see us in the regular page?
It says it's good. 3 people have written, said it's fine on Facebook.
It's fine on Facebook. Okay, that's good. So this might just be our house, Jeff. They say it's okay. And they're on the Facebook group and it seems okay. Yeah, okay, we're getting the comments. It must be you. I'm not sure why. All right. Well, thank you for confirming. Let's come back to it then. Jeff, why don't you forget that phone, and maybe it would be better if you went onto your computer. So we'll get back to it. So I'm so sorry I interrupted you. Coming back to it, Tom, because I lost our train of thought there a little bit. If someone is taking the Queen Mary 2 for the first time, what can they expect on the first day, like that check-in right through on the first day?
Well, for the most part, we're all staying in London. I encourage everyone that's not in London or England to at least arrive the day early. That's just simply for travel delays. But the morning of the 24th, those that are staying in London can take the Cunard motor coach down from London, either the hotel or Victoria coach station. Okay. That'll leave probably 10-ish, 10:30 in the morning. It's a 2.5 hour ride rather. Once we get shipside, your luggage will go from under the bus to your cabin.
Okay. Check-in
is very easy. We'll take the escalator up into the upper waiting hall. You check in, which if you've done your online check-in in advance, is a matter of them confirming it's you with your passport and giving you your room key and then a boarding number. Boarding will actually take place about 1 o'clock, 1:30. You have to go through security like at an airport. You don't have to take your shoes off, I don't think, anymore. And then once you're on board, you'll be escorted to your room. You can drop off your carry-ons, your real luggage, your heavy luggage will show up in the next few hours. And then you'll have time for lunch. That'll be served in the King's Court buffet. And then I suggest to everyone that they go to the top deck and go front to back, top to bottom, and explore the ship.
Yes, that's such a nice experience.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful. And then there's lifeboat drill about 4:30, 5 o'clock or so.
That's what I was going to ask about. Tell us a little bit, because it is something I didn't know about the first time that I went on a cruise, that you do have to go through this muster drill for safety. About what time does that take place and how long does it take? What should people expect from that?
It's about 25, 30 minutes. They used to make you go stand out by the lifeboats wearing your life jackets. Nowadays, they collect you in your muster station, which is where you're assigned to. You're in a certain cabin, you go to a certain cabin, and from there they put you in the lifeboats should something actually happen. But they tell you it's kind of like an airplane. How do you put on the life jacket, and where do you go, and what are the signals? It's the 7 short and the 1 long blast, and that's required by law.
Right.
They actually take attendance, so if you don't show up, they come knocking at your door.
That's what I was going to ask about. We once missed ours because we were so late to the ship that we missed it. So we had to do a special one the next day. So don't miss that first one. If you're with the group, you should be just fine. Yeah.
And a lot of people and all the vintage groups will have their boarding outfits because they want to dress the part from the moment they arrive. That's not required, of course, but many people will have on their outfits so they can get their picture made with their luggage and their stevedore, and they want to start the experience from the time they leave London. So.
That's absolutely right. Now, because we are a private party on the ship, so I think we should talk a little bit about that and the fact that people are going to be quite surprised to see this group of about 300 people dressed in vintage. It's not the entire ship. Maybe you can talk about that a little.
Well, sure. I've been on the Queen Mary too many times, and there's always people dressed in vintage just because she evokes that vibe, that feel. If they're not in vintage, they have a vintage kind of style. So it won't be unusual to have 300, yes, but
right.
it's more of a surprise than a shock. So that's not a concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we met. We met on the 2019 December crossing, and I guess I was one of the minority wearing the vintage wear and dancing and doing Lindy Hop.
Oh, I knew right away. I was like, oh, I like her. I'm going to say hello.
So that's how this whole thing came about. Exactly. Yeah. Now, on that first night of the crossing, because it is so busy with the check-in and everything, will we have a private event that night, or will it start the next day?
We're supposed to. The original schedule was 5 evening dances, one on the first night, and then we missed 2 because of the captain's nights. He has 2 captain's nights, and they need the ballroom. And then the last 4, and we're trying to squeeze in a daytime event, which will have to be before tea time, so probably a 12:30 to 2:30 maybe.
Okay.
And that's in addition to a cocktail party. And in addition, we've got some daytime events, about an hour each, 4 of them. And it'll be a sing-along, a name that tune, a meet the orchestra leader and the orchestra Q&A, maybe another sing-along. Someone has a suggestion, you can do that. And then several have wanted to do an impromptu, like a late night pajama party in one of the cocktail parties, or cocktail bars. That won't be an official event, but we can certainly have an impromptu. Hey, everybody, let's go up to the Commodore at 11:30 in our cocktail pajamas.
So when does everyone, when do people start to get a sense of the schedule? Like there's 2 happening pretty close together with Alex Mendham and then the Glenn Miller one. How far in advance will people get information about, like, if they need to bring pajamas or other things and themes? What can they expect from that timeline to prepare?
Well, I'll be on the ship itself in December 15th, as usual, except for when I missed it because of COVID. But that way I can see what kind of, if any, changes have been made. But I'll be putting together a video. Normally I call each and every client before their voyage, whether it's a Caribbean or Queen Mary 2, and I go to the entire cruise, or if it's the Queen Mary 2, a crossing. It's not a cruise, it's a crossing. And I go over the entire cruise from start to finish. But there's 160 of y'all by video, and then answer anybody's individual questions. But as far as the onboard events, we'll have that a good 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance, if not more. Okay. And then we'll have our own daily program. The ship has their daily program for all their events. And then we'll have our own that's specifically for us. It'll be kind of a souvenir sort of a thing, perhaps. And that way they'll know that we have a dance, because they have to plan it out from the ship. It goes to Cunard, UK, and they assign the times and the venues and so forth. And so we'll have all that. We'll have it in more than enough time.
Okay. So that's good to know. I know for myself, I like to plan my wardrobe and what I'm packing. I'm sure there are other people who are watching who feel the same way. So I want to know how many nights are going to be evening gowns, how many nights are going to have some special theme, that kind of thing. And maybe you can confirm, because when I was on the Queen Mary 2, they had a black and white ball. Does that happen every crossing, that one of them is a black and white ball?
Yes. As far as the dress code, daytime is country club casual. And in the evenings, which is strictly enforced from 6 o'clock onward, 3 nights are formal. It's going to be the second night, which is the captain's night, the next to the last night, and one somewhere in the middle. Of those 3 black tie or formal nights, the first one is formal or black and white formal.
Right.
The last one is formal or masquerade.
So, okay, wait, let's go back. So what if they have a black and white ball and I wear a red dress? Because I've always wanted to
No
do
problem.
that. Just for the record, I've always wanted to go to like an all black and white event and wear a red dress. But what's the
Jezebel,
protocol?
huh?
Exactly.
It's wear your red dress.
Okay.
As long as because it's formal with a black and white theme, so you can do either.
Okay.
Same
all
with
right.
the last one. It's formal or masquerade.
Right.
So and then the one in the middle is just that. As far as the ladies, if they can wear vintage, and if they don't do vintage, it can be anywhere from a floor-length ball gown to their little black cocktail dress, as long as it's after 6.
Yes, I find that in this vintage world, we all dress up more than the average person. So a lot of the times, we'll be maybe more dressed during the day, and that may or may not be the case for those formal nights. I know some people have been talking about wearing white tie for the gentleman, for example. I don't think anyone should be concerned about being overdressed. Do you?
No. What is that? That's like too much champagne. It doesn't exist.
Exactly. And for our crowd, I mean, if there was ever a chance to go all out, this is it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So, okay, Jeff really wants to know, and Dean wants to know, let's talk about the drink package. So there was a thread in the Vintage Cruise Lounge Facebook group talking about this a little bit. Jeff has decided he wants the drink package. You've sold him on drinking daily and going all out and having a good proper vacation. But what is the value like? Like, who would say, yes, I will drink enough that it makes sense to get a drink package?
The magic number is basically 6, because with the prices of the drinks, if you're going to drink 6 or more drinks a day, you start to make money, because you can have up to 15 alcoholic drinks a day on your drink package.
Oh, but they cut you off at 15.
They cut you off at 15, but you can still buy a bottle of wine and get your 20% discount. Now, if you're the type of person that has a glass of wine at dinner and a martini before dinner, and that's it for the day, you don't get the package because it's simply not worth it. You're paying $60 for 2 drinks. But if you're going to get 6 drinks, which people say, oh, that's a lot. Well, you have a glass of wine at lunch, maybe. You have a glass of champagne at tea time if you don't drink tea, a martini before dinner, a drink at one of the dances, a nightcap, and then maybe you go see the show where you dance to the ship's orchestra in the evening. That's your 6th drink. So it's kind of, if you space it out all day and you have one that you sip on, you can do 6 drinks pretty easy.
Right.
But if you're a onesie-twosie person, don't bother. And both people in the cabin have to get the same. So if you don't drink and he drinks, then because they I don't know why they do that, but it's true of all cruise lines.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Jeff. You're out of luck. I don't think it's worth it then, because you would have to drink 12 drinks to make it worthwhile in our cabin. That's funny. But it is nice to have a cocktail. And actually, I think on the evenings when we have our parties 6 to 8, which we'll have, is that right? Is that the time that we're usually going to have our parties, 6 to 8?
Yes. That's what's scheduled. Yes.
Okay, and then because the second seating for dinner, I think, is at 8:30. Is that right?
8:30, yes.
Right.
So we'll have 30 minutes to freshen up between dancing and dinner.
Right, or to have a cocktail. That's when I would
go to the chart room and have a martini, or the Commodore, but generally the chart room.
Right. I'm going to continue the drink. We've got lots of questions coming in. Do coffee drinks and fancy water count within the bigger drink package? Shannon was asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
But are there packages, like different packages for the drinks?
There are, and it may change between now and then, but basically, yes. And there's a soda package, which gets you the fancy cappuccinos and bottled waters and sodas. What is included, for those who want to know, of course, is your coffee, juice, milk, tea, lemonade, and that's anywhere that they serve it. Room service, you want 2 glasses of orange juice at 2 a.m., you just call room service. Here it comes. It's included. You want a Coca-Cola, they do charge you, but if you have that package, then you get all, and it's, I think, $29 a day.
Okay.
So again, the magic number is 6. If you're going to do 6 bottles of fancy water, Coca-Cola, cappuccinos, fancy smoothies from the spa, things like that are, you might break even, depends on how much you drink. But your regular water, coffee, tea, juice, milk, hot tea, it's all included.
Okay, that's good to know. Now, here is a different question that I think is good to know, because we have some passengers joining who are booked in the Princess Grill or the Queen's Grill. Does that change what does that change, actually? Maybe you should explain it.
Well, with the Princess Grill, they're larger rooms. They're all 100 of them are the same, but they're much larger, and they have concierge service. The Queen's Grills, there's 50 of those, and they're different sizes, up to 2,500 square feet. Massive 2-story apartments, deluxe. You get your butler in the Queen's Grill. Queen and Princess Grill share a private lounge. It's exclusive to them. And then on top of that, they each have their dining rooms. The Queen's Grill has a dining room for the 100 passengers. Princess Grill has a dining room for the 200. It's open seating, so they can go in anytime, and whatever table they're assigned to, no one else sits at that table. So when they walk in, if they're table 59, no one sits at table 59. That table and their waiter are waiting for them. And if they don't want to go to the dining room, they'll serve it in their cabin or their suite, one course at a time. And in the Queen's Grill, you get a stocked bar.
Oh, okay. That's a good thing for people to know. Very nice.
Yeah, but otherwise the ship is one class.
Okay, that's very good to know. Now, if someone were in the Princess or Queen's Grill, but they wanted to join one night for dinner in the regular Britannia dining room because they wanted to socialize with other people in the group, do you think that could be arranged?
Again, with the COVID restrictions, perhaps. I hope there's none by then.
Right.
But as long as there's space available within our group, and there's a table where they can put them, and we let the maitre d' know in advance that they can staff properly, shouldn't be a problem.
Right. Okay, that's very good to know. So I want to come back to talk about health and safety, but we have a very important question. This comes up a lot. What if you can't dance? Someone wants to know if they don't know how to dance. Is that a problem?
No, not at all, because the music is there for listening. They can certainly listen and enjoy and watch everybody else dance. I mean, it's not a difficulty at all. They're there to enjoy the ambiance and the camaraderie and music.
Mm-hmm. Now, I personally wouldn't mind mentioning this because I have a dance background and this comes up all the time. I don't think anyone should be shy about it. I also would say that even though we're calling the first of the crossings Dance Across the Atlantic as a theme, I really anticipate that it's not going, maybe half the people will get up and dance once in a while, but I feel that you will have just as much fun sitting, socializing, watching, just that camaraderie you mentioned, as if you were dancing. And you shouldn't be shy about it. Now, if you do feel like this is your big chance to dance and you would like to learn, where I am, and I know in a lot of places there are still restrictions, so there's not dance studios necessarily to learn. There are a lot of online lessons if you are dying to learn. Like ilindy.com is one that I happen to be familiar with, but there are a lot of different online lessons. If you feel like this is your chance and you would like to learn to dance, don't be shy to check that out, but no obligation whatsoever to dance unless it's desirable. That's sort of something I wanted to say. So,
yeah, but I think once the music starts, once the music starts, I think people they'll be up and dancing. I just had a question here. What about the time zones?
Yes, great question.
We chose this because it's a westbound, so of course New York is going to be 5 hours earlier than London. So every day they set the clock back or forward so that you're on time when you arrive in New York. So with the westbound crossings, we get 25-hour days. Yes. Every day not every day because it's 7 days, but 5 of the 7, you get 25-hour days.
It's so much nicer than losing an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, eastbound you lose an hour. It's 23-hour days. So
Yes, right. So that's nice. You get to sleep in and really take your time with that extra hour. Now, how many formal nights again? Someone just wanted to catch that. Was it 3 formal nights?
3 formal and 4 informal. It is from 6 o'clock onward. If you go on a Caribbean cruise, oftentimes you'll see people dressed for dinner. And then the moment dessert is served, they're back in their cabin and in their cargo pants, flip-flops, and undershirts.
Right.
Browsing the ship, which if you're doing a 4-day to the Bahamas, that's okay. But on the Queen Mary, you stay dressed. If you go into G32, which is the nightclub, it goes on till 2 or 3 in the morning. Everyone's still, till at least 2 o'clock, everyone's pretty well still dressed.
Right.
So the jackets may come off for the gentlemen, but that would be the extent of it.
Right. Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone really doesn't want to dress up one night, maybe they're under the weather, do you have to dress up for the buffet?
No.
No, just the dining room?
Not at all. Yeah, the Corinthia Lounge and the King's Court Buffet are casual all the time. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you have room service. One day I was particularly tired, and I went down to the dining room, looked at the menu, and I said, can you serve this in my room? And they did. It wasn't one course at a time.
Right. That's very nice.
I remember it was chicken parmesan, a nice salad, and I think it's either 2 or 3 desserts. But
I love one thing that I learned on cruises, and Jeff thinks I'm so funny because I do plan my time around meals quite a bit. It's true. I love that they post the menu for the evening outside of each of the restaurants. I think that's such a nice thing because you can plan what you're going to eat, which can be nice.
Yeah, while you're having lunch, you're thinking about dinner. So, but the food on the Queen Mary too is just so incredible. And room service. Oh, even they don't have a hamburger place, drive-through for your 2 o'clock in the morning munchies, but they've got complimentary room service. So you just call them, say, we're going to have the pasta with the meat sauce and a cheesecake, and a couple of minutes later, Mr. Tom, here's
Now, is the buffet open though? Like, if let's say people have been dancing until 2 in the morning, is there a snack you can have afterwards?
Room service.
Room service. Okay. I remember when we went on at midnight, there was they had a reduced buffet, but you could still go up and have something after
that. A little bit, yes. Like pizza and pasta, and a little bit. It's not the full.
Our mystery guest for the 3rd crossing, which won't be announced till July, but our 3rd guest was very interested in midnight ice cream, just so you're aware. So I think that will be possible with room service. So, okay, two important questions. I'm not forgetting anyone. And now, Tom, you should give the answer you gave me yesterday when I asked this, and I can then talk about it if you want. What if someone needs to find a roommate, a cabin mate?
Well, we're going to start a thread, I think you call it, or a post or a page within the Vintage Cruise where people can, amongst themselves, find a roommate. I can't I can't pair y'all up for liability reasons. I can't, and Cunard, neither can Cunard. In the old days, they used to do it. You paid your half of the room, and male or female was the only question they asked, and I used to do that way back when, and I generally had good luck, but
so I'm not part of Ahoy. I mean, I'm helping, but I'm not part of it. And I can help because I'm not part of it, match people up. I'll make sure there's a thread in the Vintage Cruise Lounge in case you're watching somewhere else. There's a Facebook group, which is a wonderful growing community, and that's a great place to look for roommates. And I know at least 2 gentlemen, I just found out yesterday, and 1 lady who are looking for cabin mates for different voyages. So we'll make sure, I don't think it'll be a problem. There are definitely solo people. And if you're shy about traveling solo, really don't be. I think this is going to be very social and nice for everyone to spend time together. So we will start to do that in the Vintage Cruise Lounge and start a thread. I'll do it right after this call for anyone looking for a roommate. Wi-Fi.
They always have a singles meet up on the ship.
Okay.
And I travel by myself, and I don't have trouble meeting people. So it's not uncommon on the Queen Mary to have single travelers, and it's never a problem. Plus, we're within our group, so there's going to be, 200 and something friends already on board.
You're immediately going to have an affinity with someone else who's dressed in vintage. I mean, that's one of the nice things. You can identify your peers immediately. That'll be so great. So Wi-Fi, what can you tell us about the Wi-Fi? Is it included?
No, it's extra. You can buy little packages. We'll have pricing a little further along for the different lengths of time. It is by satellite in the middle of the North Atlantic, so it can be a little slow sometimes, or even a little spotty if there's a storm. Personally, I'm on vacation, so I just go down to the computer center. I log on, I check my email, and then I'm off, and then that's it. That's it for me. But other people do need to keep more in contact. Your cell phone may or may not work, so you'll have to check with your provider as to whether it'll work out at sea from a ship. There is a phone next to your bed. You can call room to room if you want to call your friends down in the next cabin. That's free. Pick up the phone, call room service. It's free. If you want to call Paris, France from the ship, it's going to be $15 a minute for the satellite phone.
Right.
So do check your own provider, AT&T or whoever you have, as to whether or not it will work on the ship. And you can buy a limited package for, 3 weeks or 2 weeks or something.
Right. I mean, I know that some people, myself included, I might have to get internet to do a tiny bit of work check-in, but I certainly am not going to be live streaming. As much as I love live streaming, that's not the place to do it. It's not going to be the fastest for it, but I will record and then post things after the voyage. So just something to think about, how much Wi-Fi you really need when you're having a vintage experience. But I will get internet, but not for every moment of the day. So let's talk about something really important. Can you book through Cunard or through a different cruise agent?
No. One of the ways, I'll kind of explain it from the back door. With Cunard or any cruise line, they offer group space. And what they do is, as an incentive, for every 15 or so cabins you sell, you get a complimentary cabin. Normally that would be a benefit for me, but we've applied that towards the orchestras to keep the price down for the passengers. So when somebody books directly with Cunard or Orbitz or some third-party agency, number one, I don't know who they are, and then they just show up and they want to go dancing and they haven't paid, because everyone else that's in the group has paid the event fee. They won't have paid that. We have no control over the numbers, so if we reach our max of 340 people show up that book direct, they're going to be crowding the floor and then asking questions about times and dates, and we don't have. It's just, it doesn't work.
Right. No, this is really,
simply can't do it. And
yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I just want to emphasize that. Yeah, and the bands, you are doing such a good job taking care of these bands, and we all know during COVID here how much the bands are going to appreciate having this work and this amazing opportunity next year. And it's thanks to all of you and booking through this private party that these bands are going to have a week's worth of excellent work. So thank you to everyone. And thank you to Tom for putting this on and making sure that something so special can happen with live music. It would not happen that way without Tom doing this.
Oh, well, thank you. And I did get a memo from Cunard that they're getting enough. They're getting 2 or 3 calls from people trying to book direct, that they've actually sent out a memo to the reservationists that they're saying if they call for the April 24th, they're asking, or the May 8th, Glenn Miller, they're asking about these. They have to go back to their original source of information and contact me.
Right.
So otherwise, and you can't book somewhere else and pay once you're on board, because again, we have numbers we have to control. You wouldn't buy tickets at the Majestic for a show at the Palace.
Right.
You just don't do that.
And so please, everybody watching and who has booked, please make sure that your friends know that. It is so important that you're booking through Ahoy. Tom is going to take such good care of you. So let's make sure everyone knows. It's all over the website, but people tend to miss it, maybe consciously. So let's make sure we let all of our friends know that they should be booking for sure with Tom, or they will be disappointed. I mean, how awful would it be to show up and not get to participate? That would be terrible. So let them know in advance. I just want to clarify again, I have a question here about, does the ship actually leave from London itself, or is it from a different area?
The ship actually leaves from Southampton, which is 2.5 hours by motor coach or train. Of course, if you live there, you'll just have friends drop you off. The motor coaches will be much easier. It's a little more expensive than the train. But the first time I took the train, they said, take this train, it drops you right off in Southampton. Fine. Well, they didn't tell me that it split in half, halfway there, and the back half went somewhere else. And I was,
oh no.
I was in the back of the back car of the wrong half. So and it was like a subway. I was thinking it was a train and they'd have a little concession car and a bathroom. No, it was like a subway car. It had seats.
Did you go to the wrong place?
Well, no, when it splits, they have to take time to split the train in half.
Okay.
So I had to get my 3 suitcases and my carry-on, wearing my
We've
overcoat.
all seen your luggage. Yes. We saw a photo of all the
and I had
luggage.
to run. And the front half was moving forward because they were separating them. So I had to get my luggage, and I had like 3 minutes to run the length of 5 rail cars.
Oh my goodness.
In a heavy overcoat and luggage. And then you have to get a taxi at the other end.
Yeah.
And so by the time, and you have to take a taxi to the train station. It's easier to take the motor coach.
Right. Okay. And they can book that. Everyone can book that with you?
Yes. And the transfers and the tour to Highclere Castle, those are penciled in because it's just too far out to have them to be confirmed. But they're heavily penciled in, and they're soon to be changed to ink. But we'll add those on after the summer, which is still 8 months in advance.
Right. So to clarify, a little bit later down the road, we'll have information. I'll make sure either Tom will reach out privately, or I have the email that goes to everyone, that you will find out about the possible tour the day before we leave on the ship. So to get to go to, is it Highcliffe Castle or Highcrest?
Highclere, Downton Abbey.
Highclere. Oh, the Downton Abbey.
Highclere.
Okay. Downton Abbey. So that would be a good option. I know I'm going to go a little bit early because I need to go shopping in London. Some of my favorite brands are in London. So, okay, a couple of other very good questions here. I love this question because I don't know how this works. Michael asked, if you've booked through you, Tom, does someone need to go into the My Cunard part of the website to choose their table and their table size?
Not with the group. Table size, I've just selected large for everybody so far. In January or February, once where the group is finalized, they'll ask for any special dining request. Now, the group itself will be sat together in except for the grills. They'll be sat together in a section of the dining room somewhere. We'll all be together. However, I know that there's certain groups from Colorado and California, or maybe you've got friends on board and you say the Smiths, the Joneses, the Browns, and the Greens all want to sit together at one table. We submit that request, and that they take care of that for us. So you will get your table of 8 or 6 or 5 or whatever it is together. If you don't make that request, you'll be sat within the group.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of round robin going on.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I know that I like to flitter around and say hello to people and in between courses. So even if you're not with your, some of your friends at your exact table, I think we're all going to be friends very quickly, and that'll be an option. Now, once Jeff and we sat with lovely people on our crossing, but we did, I think it was when I wasn't feeling well, we ended up going to dinner separately and sat alone just one night. So if somebody does want to have like one night as a romantic dinner, is that an option where they just have like a small table? But
if they happen to have a table for 2 empty, yes. But they also have an a la carte restaurant on board called the Veranda. It's based on the old Veranda grills of the original Queens.
Okay.
And it's an a la carte restaurant. You only pay the tip, basically. It's a flat fee. I think it's $35, but you get an over-the-top 5-course chef-driven romantic dinner
Okay.
in a private dining room. So it's because it doesn't hold that many people. I think it's $15 for lunch, but you're really just paying for the tip. But it's a
Right.
really nice way to if you want to have that romantic night,
Right.
or maybe two couples want their own time together. Certainly,
Yeah.
and you
Okay.
can book that in advance. It's too far. We're more than a year now, or
Right.
just less than a year. So a lot of that will take place, after the summer,
Right. Yeah.
because a
So
lot of
that's
it's not
very,
even available yet.
yeah, that is very nice to know because it is quite amazing. The regular dining room is included when you book, but that there are options to do something a little extra special. It's all special, but then you can go the extra mile once or twice if you do want to with those extra restaurants. So that's really nice.
Yes.
So someone asked, and I believe it was a woman, I was trying to ask Jeff to confirm, about getting help with the vintage wardrobe. This is a topic I'm passionate about. Now, nobody is forced to wear vintage. I do want to say, I suspect, and I say this in the nicest way, just as a reality, I think that it will be a little bit less vintage on the Glenn Miller crossing than on the Alex Mendham crossing. Just, I think that's sort of the nature of it. You can look for true vintage. I personally wear a lot of reproduction, and there are so many wonderful companies doing reproductive vintage now. And I did add a page on the website. If you go under the FAQ, there's now a new drop down, and there's a page where I've mentioned just a couple of the brands that I like, that is under style and inspiration. There are so many, and it's kind of hard to name them all because then you start forgetting them. I just put a few of my favorites in, but this is a good thing for us to talk about in the group. Do you want to just name a couple of your favorite men's brands, and I'll name a couple of ladies, and then we'll take the rest to the vintage lounge to talk about the clothing? I could go on for an hour about it, but
No, well, for myself, seems like the fat guys wore their clothes out, so there's not too much in my size in actual vintage anymore. Now, when I was skinny, there was plenty, but I can't fit them anymore. So I dress in a vintage style. You'll see me often in blue blazer and white pants, and the blue and white Spectators during the daytime. I had a custom white mess jacket made, like they wore, was popular in the 30s. So I dressed the style, but it's neither reproduction nor actual vintage.
right. Jeff as well.
That's me.
Yeah, Jeffrey too.
Yeah, I wish I could have do the pure vintage, but
I actually, in my size, don't find much either. So I also wear either things that maybe you can style in a little bit of a vintage way, or some of the reproduction brands. So I think that's absolutely fine. And, someone was also asking, can I wear a formal dress more than once? Absolutely. There's actually dry cleaning available if you need it as well, right on the ship. How long does it take to turn around some dry cleaning?
One day.
One day.
They also have launderettes. So if you've got an extended trip, some people are going to be spending up to a week in advance. So when they get on the ship, the first day, they might do a load of they want to do it themselves. They can do a load of undies and socks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Get them ready for the next week. They have a stuff-a bag. It's a bag that whatever you can stuff in there, they'll do laundry on. The launderettes do have irons. That's the only place you can have an iron. You can take a steamer with you, but not an iron. But they do have irons in the launderettes. And then, of course, the dry cleaning.
Yeah.
And
I love that they have those.
Not cheap, but it's not unreasonable.
It's convenient. Yeah. We used the launderette, which I really loved. I loved that they had the iron, and we did wash, I think, a couple of shirts maybe. So that was convenient. The other thing about the daytime and formal, I just want to let people know too, the daytime, really, this is our crowd will dress up. I mean, a lot of people are pretty casual on the ship, not slobby, but definitely casual. And if you don't want to dress up too much, you don't have to during the day. It's optional. I had a little like vintage suit that I wore a couple of times. I definitely repeated that, and you could definitely repeat in the evenings too. And what about the eras? Tim is asking about the era that we. I mean, I think again, this is such an open group. Do we have any specific eras that we have to focus on, Tom?
Oh, well, there's nothing anybody has to do. Of course, with Alex Wyndham, it's going to be the 20s and 30s. And for Glenn Miller, the 40s and 50s. But it's your vacation. You can do as you wish. So, like I said, some people will be in vintage, some won't. As long as you're comfortable and having a good time, that's all that matters.
Right. And Tim,
Really,
I happen to know here, he's mentioned Edwardian. Absolutely okay. Everyone will admire you very much. I think this is a group who will love whatever you do and will appreciate however you choose to dress and express yourself. So that will be really nice. Another question a little bit close to my
nice. Yeah.
Edwardian's really nice. What if I get seasick? It's a concern for a few people. Seasickness, right? This is the high seas.
Well, a couple of things on that. One, the Queen Mary is an ocean liner, not a cruise ship. Cruise ships can cross the Atlantic when they need to. They're perfectly fine, but they're not built to do it on a weekly basis, back and forth, back and forth. The Queen Mary's got extra steel in her hull. She's got a deep draft. It's close to 40 feet, so she's deep in the water. She's got a very long bow with a long bulbous bow, so she cuts through the water. And because of her length to width ratio, she literally slices through the waves. Mm-hmm. She also has 2 pair of stabilizers. Those are these giant wings that come out from under the ship. And when the ship goes up, I'm trying to get it in the picture there. There we go. When the ship goes up, they do this, and it keeps the ship less than 3 degrees side to side. And because of her length, the pitch, which is the up and down, is minimal. And remember that it's the front of the ship that goes up and down the most. So, because ships aren't 50-50 like a seesaw. Right. It's like this.
Yes, Jeff has a real
that's why our
model.
cabins, for the most part, are midship to aft, because that's the smoothest part.
So this is a good question. Should people book a specific cabin with you if they're concerned about seasickness?
Yes, it's not too much of a concern on the Queen Mary, especially in April and May, because that should be flat calm, or for the most part. It's the North Atlantic, who knows? It's quite famous that in April with Titanic, it was a flat calm the whole way across.
Right. Oh, of course.
Didn't help them, but it was a flat calm.
Right.
And then I find that C-bands work. It's an elastic sweatband, and now you can buy them black sequin sweatband, and it's got a small plastic, like a little button, but it's plastic, and it's sewn in, and it presses on your pulse point. So there's no medication involved. It's simply a pressure applied to your point. Evidently, it works for morning sickness, car sickness, seasickness. Nice thing is, it's non-invasive. There's no medicine involved. It's simple. If you're on medicine, if you like to drink, whatever, there's no interactions to worry with.
Okay. Now, I will tell you, I got seasick on our December crossing. It was December. It was rocky. It was not like April. But you know what? And I tried the bands, and I think because I was already seasick, it didn't really help. But once I found out that you could go to the purser's desk, they had the medication. They didn't sell it in the little shop. So that's just one thing if you do get seasick. But once I went to the purser's desk, it was like $7. It was really inexpensive. And that made I was back to dancing that night. Everything was fine. So if you are concerned, they do have it at the purser's desk too. And I think, that was a pretty rocky December. So I think in April and May, you have options. You're going to be okay. It's
going to be very smooth. And while we're talking about weather, New York and London are both going to be in the mid to upper 40s during the day, and the upper 50s, low 60s. Yeah.
Jeff, help me
Upper
translate this
50s,
to
low
Celsius.
60s in the day,
What,
and the low mid 40s at night.
what are mid
The
40s
ship will
in
be
Celsius? 6 or 7 in the evenings, and then quite warmer later in the day. Okay, just for
it's
European
kind of weather where if you're in the sun but there's no wind, you'll be comfortable. The ship will be cooler because we're out in the Atlantic. Don't forget she's moving at 26 miles an hour, 22, 23 knots. There's an automatic breeze. So again, it'll be in the 40s at night, and in the daytime, upper 50s. So it'll be nippy in the daytime, cold at night. But of course, we're inside, so perfectly comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's knock out a few more questions here. So about how many people in each group?
We're hoping to max them out at 150 couples.
Right.
300.
About 300 people.
The ballroom holds 600, so we're going to have plenty of room to dance. Right,
exactly. Another reason why it's nice to have private parties, because we can all fit together in that lovely ballroom. And let's talk about, again, single dancers. So if you come and you're solo and you don't have a dance partner, will you have people to dance with? I think we have to bridge that also into a little bit about talking about health and safety and how maybe some of that might be slightly unpredictable. Can we talk a little bit about health and safety and about single dancing? I'm throwing this at you. I think it's hard to have answers.
Well, we might, we'll ask the orchestras perhaps to do a singles or a singles dance to start early in each dance to get them perhaps.
I do a lot of dancing. Look, I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry. As long as there aren't COVID concerns and everybody's good in 2022, at least among the swing dancers, people will dance with each other. You don't have to even, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
It'll be fine. My only concern was, I think we cannot predict some things about the pandemic. So just to be aware of that at the time when this happens. I mean, I'd like to just, maybe you can talk a little bit about Cunard's excellent health and safety precautions and measures so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, with the norovirus scares several years ago across the cruise industry, which people get norovirus all the time. Every time they go on a 2-day trip somewhere and stay in a hotel and they come back home and their tummy's upset and they go, I saw the food I ate and it's a disruption of my schedule. That was norovirus. But the cruise ships have to report it. But they have all those protocols in place already that have pretty much eradicated norovirus. So the coronavirus protocols as far as cleaning are about the same. The Queen Mary just had her ventilation system upgraded with triple filters that will change in the large rooms like the ballroom and the dining room. The air is changed out completely 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's great.
Filtered triple. When you're within your private group, then we don't have to worry about things like masks and gloves because we're with ourselves. And who knows what it's going to be a year from now. Hopefully it's a bad memory.
Right.
The ship itself, they do offer dance classes, or did. Again, I'll find out in December when I'm on board. Yeah. And they had dance hosts for the ship's orchestra for the evenings. So again, we won't know that until much closer in. But for our group, with ourselves, we'll be okay. And no one's going to go danceless.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's right. So that'll be great. And then also bridges a little bit into, are there classes on the ship, dance, fitness, that kind of thing? I will just say we are not planning as part of our group to have specifically swing dance classes on the ship, mostly because of space issue, like finding space to do it. So there may be classes from the ballroom teachers that are on the ship. And there are definitely usually fitness classes and other things. Sometimes there's an extra fee for some, but not all of those classes. But in your experience, there's a lot being offered in general. Tom, do you know much about that?
Yes. Well, the dance classes are free, and they have those daily, or they should.
Mhm.
There's only one or two fitness classes they charge for. There's a large showroom up at the front of the ship, so it's a 7-night crossing. So there's 7 different big shows. There's a second theater. It's actually a planetarium. NASA, excuse me, NASA, space agency, not NASA. NASA runs the program for that. That's also where they show first run movies. And then Oxford runs a lecture series on board the ship. And they'll have 3 or 4 different lecturers.
Yeah.
And they'll each give 2 or 3 or 4 lectures during the length of the cruise. We had Alexander Haig one time.
Right.
We had a guy, the pilot trainer for Concorde and 747. So you can't get any higher than that. He was,
Right.
and you think, well, what am I going to learn from a pilot? Oh,
It's interesting.
we
Very
could get
interesting.
4 or 5. It's really fascinating. And this particular, if you're on the April 24th, Cunard is having also a literature at sea theme. So they'll have guest speakers based around literature, right? They might have some famous writers on board, book reviews, things like that. Again, we'll know that at the end of the summer.
Busy.
But it is
So
a
much to
literature
do.
at
Yeah.
sea.
Yeah, that's so terrific. I'm going to come back to the dancing again because someone was asking about the British sequence dances. So, our group is going to do our thing. It's going to be a little bit more based on music appropriate for Lindy Hop or Balboa, Foxtrot, maybe some quick step, that kind of thing during our hours. The ballroom, then later in the evening, they have the ship's band, and there is definitely more of a ballroom dance focus. And there are these sequence dances that Jeff and I certainly did not know. We didn't know about those. They were popular on the ship. I did not know them. I just watched.
Is
If you
that
want
a
to
line
learn them,
dance or
yeah, but some of them are
is that a line
partnered.
dance?
Some of them are kind of partnered. They have the line dances, but then some are like you do a bunch of sequences with your partner around the floor. So that was new to me. I've never seen it until the Queen Mary too.
Huh.
I think it's a bit of a British thing. I could be wrong. So you do not need to know them unless you want to. I'm sure there will be some ballroom dancers doing these later on, though, in the evening, just not at our private parties. Yeah, they're funny. So funny. We actually have a little bit of video. You'll have to put that up, Jeff, sometime, of these sequence dances. Tom, what if you want a one-person cabin?
Well, most cruise lines charge a full 100%, because when cruise lines advertise, they advertise at the price per person based on 2 in a room. So unlike a hotel room that's $200 for the night, they don't advertise it as $100 per person based on 2 in a room. Well, that's what cruise lines do. So some people think they're getting penalized for having a room to themselves. No, you're still paying for the room, but Cunard does give a discount. So you are not paying 200%. But when you do have single occupancy, that's your room, period. That's that. Okay. So you don't have to share.
Right. So if you don't want to share, that certainly is an option. And otherwise, as we said before, if you're solo, we'll have some connecting threads in the Vintage Cruise Lounge in case you are looking for a roommate. But you can certainly travel alone. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I'm sure it could be nice to have some privacy sometimes too. Jeff, am I missing any questions before we start to wrap this up? Yeah, let's ask. And we have about a 40-second delay, so we'll chit-chat here. But do we have any more questions from the floor? This has been very interesting so far. Great questions. Love to hear from anyone.
I see one.
Yeah, great. What do you see there?
It says he booked a larger room, so can he have a party in his room after hours?
Oh,
certainly, as long as you're not too loud. It's
Yeah, great.
Yeah, if you're gonna you're gonna turn up the rap music and
invite the whole band into the room.
Yeah, then you're gonna run into some trouble. But if you're just having some people having a nice quiet now on the balcony's a different story because the sound does travel.
Right.
So you can't have the party on your balcony after hours, but in your room, if y'all are sitting around having cocktails and chatting and whatnot, And hopefully
Right.
it's the people from the next room you invite. That's a good way never to have a noise issue, is invite your neighbors from both sides.
Right. I like that. That's a very social
Yeah.
thing, I think, from our crowd. Nice. Good. Any other questions anyone is wondering? I think we covered a lot of the things that I wanted to personally talk about. Maybe while we wait for any final questions, Tom, I will ask you one more. Can you tell me, what is Queen of the Seas? You mentioned this to me yesterday. Queen of the Seas.
Oh, well, it's a little surprise we have for y'all. It was a song that was written from the maiden voyage of the original Queen Mary. It was given out as a souvenir record. And let me send out the words for y'all to memorize.
That sounds great.
And stuff.
Right.
I'm not going to give it all away.
Okay, great.
If anybody has a suggestion for one of our 1 hour events, like I said, we're having sing along, name that tune, meet the band leader and the orchestra. If there's an event that you would like or would like to suggest, we'll certainly take it under consideration. Probably do 2 sing-alongs because those are always popular.
Right.
And then if you have something in mind, like the pajama party that you want to do kind of impromptu, let us know so we can kind of not authorize it, but make sure it's, okay.
I'm sure you'll tell Cunard, because I think this pajama party is different from like a regular civilian modern pajama party. So I think that's quite wonderful. Someone wants you to talk about the Commodore Club.
It's absolutely wonderful. It's the in the old Queens, it was the observation bar on the front. It's up on top, and that is the go-to place. They have parties there and get-togethers throughout the day,
Right.
and that's after dinner. And that's where I go after the bars and lounges close. It's open till 12 or 1. And then you go to G32, which is the nightclub. But it's just really an elegant cocktail bar where you can go listen to the piano music, and it's just like a house party. The Commodore is one of my favorite spots on the ship.
Oh, how wonderful. That's great. And, Tim has a great idea here about maybe before the crossings doing like a period book pre-read. I think that's such a nice idea. We could maybe talk about in the groups, if there is, for example, a natural fit might be an F. Scott Fitzgerald book for, the 20s and 30s jazz age crossing with Alex Mendham, or, different eras books. I really like that idea. I also think it might be nice to have some film noir or some other, themes where people could watch a certain movie and have a chat on the ship about it. So I love those ideas. I think that's really, really great. It's also been suggested that maybe the next time we do a live, we have a fashion talk. And I think I could probably invite a couple of fashion experts to do a fashion talk. I think it's a great idea. Some people who could definitely lend some very good expertise to that. So very nice suggestion. Can you take drinks back to your cabin and carry them around the ship?
Well, oh, yes.
What I love is they give you champagne on your when you arrive. There's a bottle of champagne in your room. And we poured our champagne and took our champagne glasses out for a tour around the ship. That was about the nicest welcome I can imagine on the Queen Mary 2.
No, it really is. And if you get the drinks package with the alcohol, you also get 20 or 25% off on bottles of wine. We were having afternoon tea, and they had this beautiful Rosé Brut that they brought by, and there was 4 of us at the table, so we just got the bottle, and I was pleasantly surprised when it was, marked down 20% because I had the drinks package, which is bought on board, by the way. You buy that on board.
Right. Okay, that's great. Good. Well, I think we might be winding down on questions. Do you have anything else there, Jeff? I think there's going to be so many continuing great ideas. If you're watching on YouTube or elsewhere, do make sure you join the Vintage Cruise Lounge on Facebook, because it's such a great place to bring up and discuss these ideas. We can talk about books for the book club, themes, theme parties. I'll make sure that there's that thread for finding yourselves a roommate if you're looking for roommates. It's just great. And everyone's been introducing themselves and sharing photos, and it's wonderful. And if you are not already kind of a vintage dressed person and don't have the wardrobe yet, don't be shy. We want to meet you too, and we will help with that. And I love the idea of a fashion talk. I think that's great. So yeah, any final words that you'd like to say as we go out, Tom?
Yeah, two things. One is for those that are already booked, we do have the hotels at both ends. I know it's a year in advance, but with the pent-up demand for travel, feed us prices, but not a certain number of rooms. There is no obligation to hold a room. To hold a room, there's no financial payment. You pay when you check out. You can cancel up until 30 days before, so way next year. So if you want to stay at the Strand Palace, please call me or email me and say, I need so many nights. I'll hold them. We can always cancel them. We can always change it. But do get the reservation in now. Even if you don't know, if you think 4 or 5 or 6 nights, do 6.
Right.
We can always drop it. But I don't want you contacting me in November and then I call the hotel and it's like, oh, we've got a room, but it's a suite. It's $3,000 a night.
Right. Not for everyone.
Reserve your rooms now. And then you have a link for the Stewart in New York. Same thing. Reserve the most number you might need. You can always drop them off later. And then deposit on the ship.
Yes, we didn't talk about that. Very important.
They've guaranteed my prices, so the prices are set. But they did not say, well, they did. At first, they gave us, I think it was 50 cabins up front. Not particular cabin numbers, but, so many of these balconies, so many insides, so many of this, that, and the other. Once they're gone, I have the price, but there may or may not be an actual cabin to sell you. So put in your deposit. It's small, and you can cancel up until January the 7th. We hope you don't. But if it's even 50-50, reserve your room. You can always cancel it before January and get your money back. So it's not there's no it's risk-free basically. Right. So because if you call me in November, I will tell you the ship will be out, not just our group.
That's right.
The ship will be sold out, and you want to go, and there's simply
and
no
really,
space.
If you're thinking about it even a little bit, just put in your booking with Tom it's a refundable deposit. So it's better to get that booking in and hold your cabin. And if you change your mind later or something happens, no problem. But it's not a good idea to just wait and then lose that option of getting the cabins and everything filling up. And the Alex Mendham cruise is already almost, 60% sold?
Our group is, it's 60% sold for the group, which is about the same for the ship. Many of the grills are gone. Right. I'm having to have Cunard UK transfer some in because they split the inventory between Cunard USA and Cunard UK. I'm Cunard USA, so I'm having to get them to switch cabins over and some suites because the inventory's gone on this side. So I would not hesitate on either one of them to go ahead, and it doesn't cost a thing to reserve your hotel rooms, and it's a small deposit to do your cabin, and then you're done, and then final payment's not due till December, and the hotels you pay at checkout. So.
Right. So definitely get that booking in. You can use the website to get in touch with Tom. There's the booking forms. There's a contact form, his phone numbers. Do you want to just read your phone number out to us once now, Tom, in case anyone wants to call you after this?
Sure.
Yeah. I know it's a 214 something. Oh,
it's 214-761-1968. Or you can email me, Tom at Ahoy Cruises DFW, as in Dallas, Fort Worth, or DavidFrankWilliam.com. Tom at Ahoy Cruises DFW.com. And
the phone number one more time? Yeah.
What's that?
Phone number one more time?
214-761-1968.
Perfect. Good. And we do have people joining from all over the world. We will be so happy to have you book. I'm looking forward to doing a second one of these. I think we have lots to talk about. And maybe after this, we'll also pop into the group. If people want to chit chat and discuss any of those questions that came up, you can start a thread. But I know we have kept you, some people have been watching for 70 minutes. So thank you for joining us. And Tom, this is just great. We will continue to do these periodically. I think sometime soon we'll also do like a group Zoom so you can all meet each other over video. So we're still a year out, but it's going to be so much fun getting to know the community. So
we do have an international crowd.
We do.
France, Sweden, Switzerland, South America, Canada, the U.S., Colorado and California are a huge segment of the Alex Mendham. Got a family from Norway for the Glenn Miller.
Wonderful.
So we're going to have our own little tiny UN.
Yes, I'm trying to get my friend from Singapore to join us too. So it's great. Good. Well, I think on that note, why don't we go out with Alex Mendham one more time, and then we'll see everyone in the Vintage Lounge, or you're welcome to call or email Tom right now after this. So thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, everyone.
I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a notion it's make-believe. I think you're laughing right up your sleeve, fooling with me. Life is worth living while you are giving moments of paradise. You're such a standout, but oh how you hand out that hocus pocus from your eyes. I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a feeling it's all